Maura Murray was by all accounts a bright and complicated young woman. She was a nursing student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. She had been a West Point cadet. She ran track. She was the kind of person you noticed when she walked into a room. But in the weeks before she disappeared, something had shifted. On February 5th, just 4 days before she vanished, Maura was involved in a minor car accident near her father's home in Hanover, Massachusetts. The car was damaged, but she was unhurt. The incident was unremarkable, except for what happened next. The following Monday, February 9th, Maura Murray did not show up to her nursing classes. She sent an email to her professors saying there had been a death in the family and she needed time away. There had been no death in the family. She also contacted her employer and took time off work. She packed a bag. She withdrew $280 in cash from an ATM. She printed out MapQuest directions. Remember, this was 2004, to the Berkshires, a vacation area, a place to disappear to, or simply disappear. Nobody knows why. Her boyfriend, her family, her friends, none of them knew she was leaving. None of them had been told anything was wrong. At approximately 7:27 p.m., Maura Murray drove her black satin sedan north on Route 112 in Haverhill, New Hampshire. At 7:27 p.m., she was seen. At 7:29 p.m., she was gone. Butch Atwood was a school bus driver heading home that night. As he rounded a bend on Wild Ammonoosuc Road, his headlights caught something. A black sedan crashed into a snowbank. Airbags deployed, front end damaged. He pulled over. Maura was there, sitting inside the car. He rolled down his window and asked if she needed help. She said no. She said she had already called for help. She had not called for help. Her phone records confirm this. Butch Atwood drove home, which was just a few hundred feet away, and called 911 himself. He was on the phone with emergency services for several minutes. When the first officer arrived, less than half an hour later, Maura Murray was gone. There were no footprints in the snow leading away from the car, not clearly anyway. The area was wooded, the night was dark, the temperature was below freezing. She had no winter gear suited for survival. She had wine in the car, she had her bag. Where do you go on a dark mountain road in February in New Hampshire and leave no trace? That question has never been answered. The police, in the critical first hours, did not treat this as a high-priority missing persons case. They assumed she had gotten a ride from a friend. They didn't begin a formal search until the next morning. By then, if someone had taken her, or if she had wandered into the woods, 12 hours had passed. 12 hours in sub-zero temperatures. 12 hours for evidence to disappear. Over the years, investigators have circled around several people. The man in the truck. Multiple witnesses reported seeing a dark pickup truck parked near the crash site before police arrived. The truck left before the officer got there. The driver was never definitively identified. One local man was investigated repeatedly. He denied involvement. He has never been charged. He died in 2020, taking whatever he knew with him. The boyfriend. Maura's boyfriend, Bill Rausch, was at West Point on the night she disappeared, a verified alibi. But investigators noted that the couple had argued by phone earlier that day. The content of that call has never been fully disclosed. He has maintained his innocence, publicly and consistently, for over 2 decades. The father. Fred Murray, Maura's father, was the most vocal searcher. He spent years driving those roads, searching those woods, posting flyers. Some investigators found aspects of his timeline that night unusual. He has always cooperated with police. He died in 2024, never knowing what happened to his daughter. And then there is the theory that no one took Maura Murray anywhere, that she walked into those woods herself, that she didn't want to be found. This theory has vocal supporters and it has vocal critics, because Maura had, by most accounts, a future she cared about, a family she loved, a life she was building. But people are complex, and sometimes the people we think we know are strangers. Here is what we know for certain. These are the facts that investigators keep returning to, because they don't fit neatly into any theory. 1. The crash damage on Maura's car was consistent with hitting the snowbank, but the car was positioned strangely, almost as if it had been deliberately moved slightly after impact. This was never explained. 2. A neighbour reported seeing a disturbance near the crash site around the time Maura vanished, something that sounded like an altercation. This report was initially overlooked and resurfaced years later. 3. Maura's cell phone pinged a tower in the area shortly after the crash and then went silent. It never pinged again. 4. Her Saturn contained a bottle of Bailey's, a bottle of wine, and evidence she had been drinking before the crash. But she had also packed a bag, a planned bag, which suggests this was not an impulsive night. 5. There was a book found in the car, a book about hiking trails in the White Mountains. She had been planning something, we just don't know what. 20 years later. The New Hampshire State Police still have an open investigation file on Maura Murray. It has never been closed, because it has never been solved. Maura Murray was 21 years old. She would be 42 today. Somewhere in the White Mountains of New Hampshire, or somewhere else entirely, there is an answer to what happened to her on the night of February 9th, 2004. The witnesses are aging, the evidence is cold, but the case remains open, and somewhere, someone knows something. If you have any information about the disappearance of Maura Murray, the tip line is still active through the New Hampshire State Police. This is the kind of case that stays with you. Not because it's dramatic, but because it's ordinary. A young woman, a dark road, 35 minutes, and then nothing. If this story affected you, share it. Someone watching might be the person who finally puts the pieces together. Subscribe for a new case every week, and until next time, lock your doors.